Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Meeting House, where we have conversation on religion and American life. I'm your host, Dr. Dwight A. Moody, coming to you from our studios in Taylors, South Carolina. I encourage you to visit our website at themeetinghouse.net for all of the commentaries, book reviews, and interviews that we've done over the years. My guest today, a young scholar. Some of you will say this is the first time you will have met somebody that one day you'll hear about, read about, be influenced by. His name is George Anthony Pratt, Morehouse College, class of 2023. Not just a graduate, but at the top of his class, valedictorian of his graduating class this year at Morehouse College, winner of the prestigious Marshall Scholarship, where he'll enroll for graduate study this fall at Oxford University in Oxford, England. We're delighted that he's here today. We're going to talk to him about his journey into college, through college, what his ambitions are. You'll be inspired by one of the most outstanding young thinkers and theologians of the rising generation. Welcome to the Meeting House, George.
So much, Dr. Moody. I am both honored and humbled to be in this space and to share space and to engage in community with you. So thank you.
God bless you. I'm honored to meet you, to know you, and to talk with you as well. You've just graduated from Morehouse College. I, of course, follow Morehouse very closely. I follow all of their public events. And as you know, Dean of the Chapel, Lawrence Carter, is a very dear, close friend of mine, and I know he's had an influence on you. You've graduated. You're leaving when to go to Oxford?
Yes, I depart for Oxford in September to begin the Michaelmas term, which begins October 1st. I am extremely elated to be journeying back over to the pond, back across the pond. I studied in the UK for 6 months last year at the University of Manchester and fell in love with life in the UK. And so I will first read for a MPhil, a Master's of Philosophy and Theology, concentration being Christian ethics, then we'll continue on to the DPhil, the Doctor of Philosophy and Theology and Religion.
Now, of course, you use that English phrase, you're going to read for a degree. In America, we say studied, but over there, you know, they say, I'm going to read for a degree. Describe to us what you know about the tutorial system of guided reading at Oxford University.
Sure. So I'll talk about this in my first introduction exposure to the British educational university system, which is certainly different from the private liberal arts kind of environment that I was in attending Morehouse College. And so in studying at the University of Manchester last year, I won a Lord Moore Scholarship, which is a fellowship sponsored by the English-speaking Union for HBCU students to study at a British university at their choice. And so this was very interesting to me, the fact that I had the opportunity to engage with a professor in a lecture format, to read the assigned readings, and then to have the tutorial space in which a graduate student or the assistant of the professor works with us more intimately and to go over the text or to go over the course materials. And so the lecture, comprises of the professor and upwards of 50 students, which is totally different from going to a small private liberal arts college where every course is almost a tutorial. I've been in class sizes as small as one, just me and the professor, and as big as maybe 30. Class size is very small. Well, in contrast, in the UK, the lecture class very, very large number of students, whereas in the tutorial, maybe 5 to 7 students, with the graduate assistant, or a lecturer who is in the completion of their doctoral work. And so this attracted me to the British style of learning, the emphasis on individualized and independent learning and workshopping thoughts, ideas, questions, inquiries in this small incubator of thought, if you will. And I as an intellect, engaging in modes of academe and thought work is very deep spiritual work, and it's invigorating. And so I like to do a lot of it alone, and in silence. And so just that different dynamic of learning, the type of environment that's crafted in the UK, in that university system, it was more inclined with the way that I learn and just naturally kind of go about researching, as a scholar, and as an intellect. So I'm looking forward to returning to that system, and it's very structured. And one thing that I like about it, it's so important in being introduced to one's canon and to the seminal thinkers and scholars within a field of study and within a discipline. And so the tutorial and the lecture format, the way one is introduced to thinkers and an intellectual tradition and school of thought, and is prompted to really read, not just for comprehension, but to read simply beyond understanding, but to engage with this thinker, to understand what they are discussing, what they are advancing, what they are arguing, and to come into this small community, in this small space, and to discuss quite comfortably and transparently what you're thinking, and what you're processing about this text, and the different points and lines of argumentation that this thinker has raised in this small format. It's very life-giving, and it speaks to the importance and the significance of being a part of an intellectual community. And one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Oxford is because it's one of the best institutions in the world, right? Dedicated to serious modes of scholarship for many centuries, and this is the institution where people all over the globe, across the world, go to be trained within their respective fields of study to make a difference.
So let's describe Oxford. I believe it's a 12th century founding of Oxford University. It is comprised of a series of colleges that are in many ways autonomous. And these colleges sometimes are affiliated with a religious tradition, and sometimes they are known for a particular intellectual tradition. Now, you are going to University College, I think you told me. Was that college assigned to you, or did you apply to University College?
So, interestingly enough, Marshall scholars, we only had the options of selecting university college or Trinity College. And I was assigned University College. And so grateful to have the opportunity to study there, and to live in residence there. And that's another distinction between my, I guess, home educational experience in attending Morehouse. Morehouse, of course, is a college with a few thousand students, whereas in Oxbridge, schools like Oxford and Cambridge have multiple constituent colleges that make up the university, and your accommodations, your courses, the kind of the administrative aspects of it are taken care of by that college. And so this is a totally a different world almost, that I'm entering into in being a part of such a large institution, and then an institution almost within an institution. So looking forward to that.
You will live in the school building.
Yes.
You will eat in the school building. You
Yes.
will go to school, go to your classes, go to your lectures. Are they still wearing, do students wear robes now? They used to wear robes, the students. You don't
It's
know.
my under. Yeah, no, it's my understanding that robes are only worn for the
I,
for commencement exercises for the official days at the university.
Now, you've just graduated from Morehouse College. Let's go back and talk about uh, where were you before you came to Morehouse, and why did you go to Morehouse?
Sure. So I am a native of Jacksonville, Florida. I'm a proud Floridian from the Sunshine State. Um,
Well, I
and
know
I
Jacksonville well. My home, permanent home, is on St. Simon's Island, Georgia,
Oh
which is
wow.
just
Okay.
about an hour north of Jacksonville. I know it well.
Yes. Yes, took many trips up to St. Simon's
Hmm.
Island, Jekyll Island, uh,
Well, the next
Fernandina
time you
Beach.
go, I want to be there, be your host, and take you to my favorite places and host you, okay?
That would be wonderful.
I want to do
I
that.
thank you so much. I look forward to that one day. I truly do. So I grew up in Jacksonville, lived there for all of my life. And as you know, Jacksonville, with it being in North Florida, it's still not only geopolitically, but culturally in the American South.
Yes.
And so growing up uh, in this post kind of racialized era, early 21st century, as a young African American male, there was a certain image of excellence that was pressed upon me, but also understood. And so I'm a product of what is popularly known as the Black Church. I grew up in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the oldest
Yeah.
Black autonomous denomination. And so, being in that I grew up in this space, there were a lot of college educated persons, particularly men, who I came in contact with, a lot of whom were Morehouse men. But just growing up in the Jacksonville community, growing up middle class, interacting with prominent figures and members of my community, at an early age, I came to understand that Morehouse was just the institution that I was going to go to. I also should mention that I come from a family in which it is tradition to attend an HBCU, historically Black college or university, for undergrad.
Hmm.
My mother is a graduate of Stillman College, a Presbyterian HBCU in
Hmm.
Tuscaloosa, Alabama. My father matriculated and attended Edward Waters College, now University, and AME HBCU in Jacksonville. My grandparents graduated from Johnson C. Smith University. I've had uncles, aunts, godparents, extended family members who have graduated from Howard, Hampton, Hoogaloo, FAMU. So it's just tradition
You've
to
got a
attend an
great,
HBCU.
you've got a great heritage.
Yes.
You're the poster child of HBCUs, aren't you?
And so my it was just encouraged and really imbued within me from a very young age that I was going to an HBCU because of the cultural benefit and reward that one gains out of that experience. And so I've always been quite a voracious reader, and so just from a young age reading that persons like, of course, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Spike Lee, Samuel Jackson, Maynard Jackson. Understanding that these men went to Morehouse, I just knew that this was the place for me. And so, from a very young age, I knew that I was going to Morehouse. I have this funny anecdote. I was in sixth grade, and I made this vision board And I wish I could have brought it to show you, but I made this vision board that served as a binder cover for my sixth grade world history class. And on this binder cover, not only was the seal of Morehouse, but also was the seal of the University of Oxford. So from a very young
Wow.
age, I've always been intuitive and have possessed an inner knowing in which I've been able to conceptualize what I want to accomplish for myself and those dreams and those aspirations that I want to achieve.
So in the sixth grade, you already knew about Oxford University. That in itself is impressive. And to have the ambition to go to a place like that as a student and a scholar, that really is a terrific story. When you got into to Morehouse, what did you major in over the 4 years?
Yes, I double majored in history and religion and did a minor in leadership studies. And what's so interesting about my Morehouse journey and experience, I always knew that I wanted to major in religion and history. I loved history. Throughout school, social studies was my favorite subject. Took every AP history I could possibly take. In high school, I went to a college preparatory school. And so in entering Morehouse, I had credits toward the history major, and I knew that I wanted to double major in religion. My father went back to undergrad and seminary during my early days growing up as a child. And I would, read his textbooks and look over his shoulders as he was writing his class papers. But I always say, growing up in the church really developed my critical analytics in observing the different class, culture, and color distinctions within the religious space. And so I knew I wanted to study religion, but I wanted to study history and religion to go to law school. I wanted to become a litigator. I wanted to, go to law school, first clerk for a federal appellate judge, then a Supreme Court justice, then work for the DOJ. And so I was very intentional about thinking in regards to how these different tools within these disciplines, how the training that I received was going to allow me to become this great attorney. And that's what I thought I wanted to do from a very young age. I did, the touchstone kind of programs. I did the United States Senate Youth Program and had the opportunity to not only meet, various senators and my own senators, but the Supreme Court Justice, particularly, specifically Chief Justice Roberts. I had the opportunity to meet the president and other members of our government. And so it's just my trajectory, the way that I envisioned it. I thought I was going to be an attorney. I got to Morehouse freshman year, took a moot court class. And just found out that the law was something that I just was not as interested in as I thought I was. I volunteered as a teen attorney in high school for the 4th Judicial Circuit Court in Jacksonville, Florida, in which I would represent minors who committed their first misdemeanor crimes and would receive a civil citation to civil court. And so I present these individuals. So they had a passion about social justice, advocacy, and the law. But I got to Morehouse and it was not something I was interested in, something that I was not passionate about. I didn't see myself pursuing this career. It was something that I thought I was going to be unhappy in. And I, thinking about it later, it was very much a desire that was a product of my socialization, growing up as a young African American man in the American South. You have this image of tokenism and respectability that is kind of hung over your head. And so you're to become an attorney, an engineer, a medical doctor. And these kind of serve as kind of blindfolds into really these other career paths and fields that are these gateways to broader horizons. And so I kind of had this internal struggle, and it plays out in my Morehouse journey. I always knew I had the markings of a scholar and a thinker, and people in my religious community very much affirmed that. And so it would be nothing for me to speak to someone after church and they call me Dr. Dr. Pratt. But it was more so of a naming. So, anyways, fast forward to Morehouse.
What was
I
it?
had this.
Yeah, I'm interested to know what was it that shifted you from law to theology,
Yes, yes.
other than,
So I
the purposes and will of God.
I had this professor by the name, and she actually was one of my faculty mentors. So her name is Dr. Allison Ligon. Is an associate professor of English and chair of the English department at Morehouse. And this is the beautiful thing in finding your teachers and finding your mentors and your elders. I very much had a Joseph Campbell coming of the mentor moment, and several of those types of moments in journeying at Morehouse. But she recommended, I had her as a freshman, she recommended a program that's known as the Mellon Mays Undergraduate Fellowship Program. And this program is sponsored by the Mellon Foundation. It's for minority students who are interested in pursuing careers in the academy, who want to go on to complete a PhD in the social sciences and the humanities. And it's typically for students who are sophomores and they, complete the program between their sophomore and senior years. It's a 2-year program. Well, I was a freshman and I had sophomore class status because I came in with credits. And one day after class, she says to me, George, I think you would be interested in this program. You would do well in this program. You have all of the markings of a scholar and an intellectual, and I want you to apply. And I told her quite respectfully, Dr. Ligon, I don't think this program is for me. I want to do a joint JD and Div after undergrad. I asked her to write a letter of recommendation for me for a pre-law program at Duke and at FSU, Florida State University, during the freshman summer. And so I was just very, very clear on what I wanted to do. And so then a couple of months later, I received an email. And in the African American community, we have this this phrase or this concept of being voluntold. And so I was voluntold, to apply to this program. I really didn't want to, but she, in her own way, we don't like to use the language of forced, but I had no choice. But you have these, and that's the beautiful thing about being in a community like Morehouse, but just more broadly in an educational ecosystem, in an educational community. You have people who can, have the gift of sight and who can be far beyond what you can see and see those qualities in you that they want to cultivate. And it is so through this program, I was introduced to the world of scholarship. So there's a summer institute that I completed at Emory University. And I was this freshman, had no idea that I was engaging in research, but did not have the language to articulate it. And so I was introduced to, theories and theoretical frameworks and methodology and approaches. And by virtue of doing this program, I found out that I'm a transdisciplinary scholar by nature. I engage, my line of inquiries draw me to engage in multiple fields and across disciplines that moves beyond one particular discipline and kind of challenges the contours and the rigidness of,
And so you're going off to Oxford University to study
Yes.
theology with a colleague of mine, Anthony Reddy, who is the director of the Center for Religion and Culture at Oxford University. He was my guest here in the meeting house about a year ago. And we have just a minute left. When you look down your future, what is your ambition? You've already talked about getting the Master of Philosophy degree and the Doctorate of Philosophy degree at Oxford. What are you going to do with it?
Question that I continuously ask myself, the goal is, Du Bois has this quote. He says, um, the thinker must not think for fame, but the thinker must think for truth.
Mm-hmm.
And it is this question of truth that orients my footsteps. And so while I have this desire to burgeon as a cultural theorist and a scholar of religion and Black studies, I also feel that I was meant to serve community and the public as a public intellectual, and as a public theologian. And I'm reframing, what it means to be a theologian, a public theologian, and a public intellectual. But I believe that I have been summoned by freedom spirit to work with the oppressed, to work with those who serve on the margins and fringes of society, but to ask certain questions, to ask questions of freedom by engaging in research and scholarship through various modes of academia. And so I hope to one day serve as a college professor, but also to enter higher education administration. I would be privileged to serve as a president of an institution, a college or a university one day. And I understand, the importance of giving back to those communities who have helped develop you. So I do hope to become a president of an HBCU one day.
George, you have a bright future in front of you. You've done your church, your AME church, proud. You've done your college, Morehouse, proud. And we pray the richest blessings on you as you head over the waters to Oxford University. May you flourish and become all that you can become as you study over there to serve the world and serve the church. God bless you. Thank you for coming by the Meeting House today and talking with me. You've inspired me, and I pray that you'll continue to inspire people, young and old, as you follow God's call on your life. God bless you, George. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Peace and blessings.
Thank all of you for joining in our conversation today on religion and American life. Visit our website at themeetinghouse.net for all of our book reviews, commentaries, and interviews. I'm Dwight Moody, your host in the Meeting House. Have a good day.